Susie Sloniker, Chief Deputy in the Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and Stephanie Sirkovich, Chief of Staff to the King County Council. We are staffed today by Geraldine Hampton, our ballot processing manager here at King County Elections. This meeting is being live streamed on via the King County Elections Facebook page and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel after this meeting. For our first item, Janice Case, our King County Elections deputy, will provide us with 2 incident reports from this election.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the first item I have is item DB 9001. For this item on Tuesday, November 8th at approximately 8:10 p.m., Dropbox driver team 3 was emptying the Burien Town Square ballot drop box when a voter approached the ballot drop box and tossed their ballot into the ballot transport bin and then quickly left. One of the drivers and another closing staffer immediately pointed to the ballot that landed in the ballot transport bin, certain it was the one thrown into the bin, and a third closing staffer thought it was that ballot. The ballot was then placed into the red "Returned Too Late" bag with a Burien location tag attached to clearly identify it. And so we are looking for direction from the canvassing board today as to whether or not this ballot should be processed as returned too late or as on time.
I move that the board reject the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And then the next item I have is item DB 9002. Also on Tuesday, November 8th at approximately 10 p.m., Dropbox driver team 18 returned to the warehouse, and upon emptying their van, 4 ballots were discovered that were not secured in a red "Returned Too Late" bag, a blue bag, or a transport bin. Driver 18 was tasked with 3 stops on election night. The first stop was at the Kent Regional Justice Center ballot drop box, where they both closed the ballot drop box and then emptied it after closing. The second stop was at the Kent Vote Center to pick up their blue and red bags. And their final stop of the night was at the Kent YMCA ballot drop box, where they emptied the ballot drop box. After 8 p.m., the closing team accepted all on-time ballots and closed and sealed the Kent Regional Justice Center ballot drop box. Following the 8 p.m. deadline, 2 ballots were placed into the red "Returned Too Late" bag. One of the drivers then sealed the red "Returned Too Late" bag. Driver teams are instructed to keep the red "Returned Too Late" bag unsealed while completing their closing route, as voters may still approach them after the 8 p.m. deadline with ballots, or they might find ballots placed on top of or around the drop box when they arrive after 8 p.m. as well. After sealing the red "Returned Too Late" bag, a voter approached with 3 to 4 ballots, which the driver accepted and placed in the supply bin in the van. After emptying the ballot drop box at the Kent Regional Justice Center, driver team 18 proceeded to the Kent Vote Center. At that location, the drivers placed 3 ballots into the Vote Center's red "Returned Too Late" bag, which was then sealed. The final stop team 18 made was at the Kent YMCA ballot drop box. At this location, one of the drivers recalls a late voter approaching while the team was emptying the ballot drop box, and the other driver instructed the voters to place their ballot on top of the ballot drop box. It is unclear how many ballots they placed on top of the ballot drop box or what happened to those ballots. When the team arrived at King County Elections and the van was unloaded, 4 loose ballots were discovered. The drivers were uncertain where these ballots came from and if they were on time or late ballots. 3 of these ballots were from voters in the same household, and these voters last voted in the November 2020 general election and returned their ballot at the Kent YMCA ballot drop box. One of these ballots was also from a voter who has historically used different ballot drop boxes in the Kent area, the Kent Regional Justice Center in the November 2020 general election, and the Kent Panther Lake Library in the November 2021 general election. The first group with the 3 ballots from the same household has contact information on file, and we did attempt to contact these voters multiple times, both via phone and email, and we have not heard back from those voters. And the last voter had no contact information on file. So for these 4 ballots, we are looking for direction as to whether they should be processed as returned too late or on time.
What did you say about the ballots that they put in the console after they had sealed the red envelope?
3 to 4 ballots after they had sealed at the Kent Regional Justice Center, after they had sealed the red return too late bag. 3 to 4 ballots were then placed loose in the supply bin prior to going to the Kent Vote Center. At the Kent Vote Center, 3 ballots were placed in a red return too late bag.
3 different ballots.
All I can say is the drivers identified 3 to 4 ballots. One driver identified 3 ballots at the Kent Regional Justice Center. Another said 3 to 4 ballots were placed loose into that bin. When they arrived at the Kent Vote Center, they then placed 3 ballots from that grouping into the red return too late bag.
So they were from that grouping.
Janice, you said that that there were other additional ballots placed onto a top of a drop box after that.
A voter approached and at the Kent YMCA location, a voter approached with an unknown number of ballots, and they were instructed to place those on top of the ballot drop box. Neither drivers were able to say what had happened to those ballots or how many were part of what that voter had placed on top of that box.
And do we know what time that voter was it after?
They were at the Kent YMCA at 9:30 p.m.
I'm torn. I don't know if it's not clear to us if the ballots were on time or late. I don't know if there is a guiding principle that we're supposed to use, like we have in our voter intent book, to determine whether they were received before 8.
This is the first such incident this has ever occurred for us.
And what I would say is that kindly the law says, have the canvassing board make that decision.
Without any guidance.
Right.
So did I understand correctly, though, that this all sort of start after 8 p.m.? Is this as they were coming to collect, and it was after 8 p.m. to begin with? So our scenario starts at 8 p.m.
Correct.
And if they're not in the ballot box at 8 p.m., it's likely that they're late.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
the deadline is 8 p.m. So this series of events started after 8 p.m., including
That makes sense. So with that clarification, I would move that the ballots be rejected as not timely.
I would second that.
Just to make sure that we have the audio for that, the board has motion to reject the ballots. In a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Deputy Kate. Thank you.
So no red arrows to make it easier. All right. So the whole ballot. So the voter for this particular ballot has marked a candidate's bubble. So a printed candidate. And then also the bubble for the write-in. And then they also write on the write-in line either US citizen or US citizen deposit US.com. And they do that throughout the ballot. So the question that we have for the board, could we consider this a Rule B situation where it's considered a pattern of similar marks? If we do not consider it a Rule B situation, pattern of similar marks, then they would all be considered overvotes. So you can see it's on the back as well. So here's an example, mark for the candidate. And then here it says US citizen deposit US.com. So the back looks like they are doing that longer US citizen deposit.com. And then on the front, it looks like they're putting US.citizen on all of those candidate contests. I'll pass it over for you to take a closer look at. Sure, yeah.
Well, it's definitely a pattern, it's consistent throughout the ballot with where there's a candidate, where it's not a ballot measure. So I would lean toward accepting, saying that this is just their pattern, and I would accept the vote for the person.
I would agree.
The canvassing board has determined that we will mark these as votes for each of the races or in contests. Is there anything you would like me to indicate on this ballot? Would you like me to circle each of those?
You do not need to. I'm going to say vote for candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Accept, yes, sorry.
All right, moving on to B-0002. We've got one item on the front. Zoom in a little bit for you. So for King County Prosecuting Attorney, is the star a written instruction to vote for Jim? So you can see they marked the bubble, crossed it out, marked the bubble for the write-in, crossed it out, but they put a star next to Jim. So it is unclear to us if that's a written instruction to vote for Jim or to not vote for Jim.
Remind us, Jeremy, where those rules are in the book?
Written instruction is page 44, Rule E. Where you can use circles, arrows, lines. But the intent still needs to be clear.
Right.
I feel like for this one, it's a little difficult to tell because the person could have started first, thinking I'm going to vote for this candidate, then filled it out, then crossed it out. It's hard to tell where the star was placed, whether, it was before or after the strikeout. So I would not feel like I could discern the intent from this. I don't.
I agree.
Sounds like we will be marking this, Geraldine, as an undervote for the race. Or, right, we don't think it's a vote for Jim Farrell or Lisa or write-in, right? Correct, undervote, okay.
It's going-
Yep, same thing. Yeah, it's all gonna be accepted.
Next item is B-0003. We've got one item on the back. One item on the back. Actually, we have two of them. We want to ask about this number 7 as well. Okay, so Court of Appeals 1 and 7. Is the mark to the right-hand side of Ian a written instruction meant to cancel the correction and vote for Ian? In the same vein, the fact that the line through Janet also crosses through the mark to the right of Janet would mean that the voter had corrected the written instruction to keep Janet undervoted. So do we think they made a correction and then put a bubble to say, I really want this? But for the secondary position number 7, the line goes through
Right.
the added bubble also.
I think for position number 7, they intended not to vote for that candidate. But I think for position number 1, they did intend to vote for that candidate.
I'll take a look at it. It's a little trickier. These are hard today.
Yes.
It's a little trickier because it's sort of the same. It's sort of the same thing as the last one. Like, did the star or did the mark come there first, or when did that appear? But at the same time, for this judicial position number 1, it's not clear that this is a strike through for the candidate. It could just be a stray mark that the person just filled out the bubble and just kind of deviated a little bit. It isn't as obviously, they made a very clear strike through on this one. So I would think that, and I think this is
Yeah,
confirming what you said, that yes, they intended to vote for this person. No, they are not intending to vote
correct.
for this person. Okay.
The board has determined a vote for Ian for Court of Appeals Division 1, District 1. And for position 2, for position 7 and undervote.
All right, next item is B-0004. There's one item on the front. So for King County Proposition 1, the voter wrote mistake crossing out with an arrow towards the approved there. Is this a written instruction that approved was a mistake and they meant to cross it out, making the whole contest an undervote? Or are they telling us that crossing out approved was a mistake and thus should be a vote for approved?
The way they marked the rest of the ballot, I think they're trying to tell us that it was a mistake to cross out the approved and that the intended the approved to be counted.
Oh,
Otherwise, they would have marked the rejected.
that's an interesting point. I didn't think of that. I was initially thinking, because the arrow is like directly at the on the bubble, I was thinking they were saying it's a mistake. I'm crossing that out. Like I didn't mean to. But I didn't think of that, of how they very carefully filled out these other bubbles. Although they also did not vote for, there are some races that are blank. So I don't think that they intended necessarily to fill out every single bubble. And they crossed out very faintly, but they crossed something out. I sort of think that they intended just to not have this, to not vote for this, that they changed their mind. That's my,
And you think, Susie, you think that it was, what their mistake was crossing it out and that it's a vote for approved?
Yes.
I'm inclined to agree with that. I'm gonna vote, I think we'll do a vote for approved. Sure. You okay?
yeah,
It's okay. Proposition 1, conservation futures levy, vote for approved.
All right, B-0005. There's a couple items on the front. Messy marks. So for advisory vote 39 and advisory vote 40, what do we think the mark, or what do we think the vote is for either of these? So for advisory 39, most of the mark is in between repealed and maintained, but there is marks in maintained. And then for advisory 40, it's very much in the middle of both repealed and maintained, although there's a little more ink in maintained, but not enough for us to feel confident.
I'm inclined to think these are maintained, votes for maintained, just based on positioning.
Do seem close to maintaining. So messy mark, but maintain.
The board has determined to vote for advisory vote number 39, maintained. Advisory vote 40, maintained.
Next item is B-0006. We have one item on the front. So a similar messy mark for legislative district number 36, representative position number 1. We've got a mark in between the two printed candidates. We're hoping you can tell us what you think the vote is.
It is perfectly in between the two, isn't it? I think,
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah, I can't discern an intent to vote for either.
So do we think there's any ink in either of the opals or none of the opals?
I think there's a little bit of ink in each of the candidates, and so that's what makes it so hard.
Right.
And I think based off of that, we see the board sees ink in ovals for both candidates for legislative district number 36, position 1. So we're going to call it an overvote.
Okay, moving on to B-0007. There's one item on the front. Similar, more messy marks for you. It's legislative district number 33, state senator. And there is some amount of ink in both printed candidates, Karen and Marlisa.
This looks like the same thing to me.
I agree.
There's ink in both and it's in the middle, too hard to tell.
Board has determined for legislative district 33, state senator overvote.
Next item is B-0008. We've got 3 items on the front. So we'll start with the first item, messy marks. So we've got King County Proposition number 1. We've got US Senator and Congressional District number 7, all with messy marks. So here's the King County Prop 1. Over here is the Senator and Congressional District number 7.
Different opinions on each of these. I feel like for the proposition number 1, it's very more clearly in the approved bubble. For United States Senator, it's to me very smack in the middle with marks on both. And then US Representative, it seems to be a vote for Pramila Jayapal because it's.
I agree on all 3.
The board has determined that there are votes for Prop 1 Conservation Futures Levy approved. United States Senator overvote. United States Representative for Congressional District number 7, a vote for Pramila.
Okay, B-0009. We've got 1 item on the front. Another messy mark for King County Charter Amendment number 1. There's a little bit of ink in both the yes and the no.
I think it's the same as some of the others. It's too hard to tell.
You okay with overvote or ink in both? Okay. The board has determined for Charter Amendment number 1 for King County is an overvote.
Okay, next one is a hard one with a lot of work for you. It's B-0010. And it's all the items that are marked. So I just checked it and counted. It's all but 3 of the contests are marked for you to take a look at. Zoom out. So there is marks in target areas. There are a lot of scribbles that look like messy marks or stray marks. But some of these marks are in between intentionally filling in an oval, which would make it an overvote, versus scratchy stray marks. The whole ballot. So I will let you all take a look at it. I'm sorry.
Bring us through our paces.
Right, because if it's an obvious stray mark, we're not going to count those as votes.
Right.
But if it's a messy mark in the oval, we count those as votes. So sort of discerning what's a stray mark versus a messy mark. Yeah. Like I said, there were 3 on there that we felt confident in the decision. So you can see the one that doesn't have the red arrow, just for some context of how we were looking at the ballot.
We take them one at a time. Yeah, they're just,
Yeah, I mean, even doing that, I think it's just such a close call, I might, that one, this advisory vote at the top, there's pretty heavy ink in both. Even though one circle is filled out a little bit more, there's still some heavy ink in the other one. This advisory vote number 40, it's a little bit more, I can see heavier ink and repealed, but there's a fair amount in the maintained bubble as well, so.
if the board thinks the whole entire ballot is overvoted, would that make sense?
Yes. And then just, do you agree with what we didn't put a red arrow on as being obvious?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
All right, the board has determined this entire ballot, except for Secretary of State, which is a vote for Julie, is all overvoted.
Thank you. Next up, we have B-0011. There is 2 items on the front for review. So we have state senator contest with some amount of the ink in Tiffany is going horizontal and goes through the first letter. So we had a question on, is that a correction or is that just a messy way of filling in the oval? And then for US Representative Congressional number 7, we had a question. There's more ink here right above Pramila that is touching the oval. However, there's a little bit of ink here on the Cliff bubble as well. And our internal sort of way we calibrate corrections, if there's a horizontal line through the oval and it goes into the name, it doesn't have to go through the entire name. We usually are counting that as a correction.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I guess my question for this first one for United States Senator is the mark that's in there, is that intended to be a horizontal line or a strike through, or is that just a messy sort of filling in for that oval?
I thought it looked more like a filling in for the US Senator.
I agree. I think that's a clearer one than the United States Representative. That's a little tougher, but I see that there's more ink in the first bubble, and it's harder to tell.
I would think that the representative race would be an undervote, just because there's a healthy blob in the second candidate.
Okay, I would agree. I could agree with
That's a
that.
new term.
It's a technical term, it's called a blob. The board has determined for United States Senator, a vote for Tiffany. United States Rep. Cong 7 is a undervote.
Oh,
Overvote.
Yeah.
Overvote,
Both,
yeah,
both
because
ovals got a
are-
little bit.
Both are.
Thank you. So that was an overvote.
Yes. All right, B-0012, we've got 2 items on the front. So for US Senator and US Representative Congressional District number 1, are the lines that are going through one of the bubbles an attempt to make a correction? Or they attempt to make an X, like a low fluency X? If they are considered X's, are they crossing out Patty? Are they passing out Susan? Is our question. If we don't think they're X's, then it will be an overvote. And Neither candidate gets those votes. And if you look at the rest of the ballot, well, they don't mark anything on the back. On the rest of the contest, I'll zoom out a little bit. On the rest of the contests, they are completely filled in with not a lot of scribble or extra stray mark type situation, just for some context.
Well, it seems like definitely someone very intentionally made those marks around those bubbles, because like you pointed out, there aren't marks anywhere else. I don't think they're stray marks. They look a little more intentional than that. It's, to me, it's an easier call on this US representative, because the mark, that mark that is sort of X-like or angled, is going through Susan Del Bene's name a little more clearly. It's a little trickier in the US Senator because it's in both. It's in both, but it's mostly in the Patty Murray bubble. So I would say that they intended to cross out votes for Patty Murray and Susan Del Bene and to vote for the other candidates.
I agree.
Board has determined for United States Senator a vote for Tiffany. United States Representative, Congressional District 1. Also a vote for Vincent.
Proposition 1, it looks like more of the mark is in the rejected to me. I would count that as a rejected. On legislative district 32. Low fluency, is that the word you use?
Yes.
I still can't tell even with the possibility that it's low fluency, which candidate
Yeah,
received that vote.
I agree. That one was just so far off the target.
Right, and for the state Supreme Court and the district court, to me, those are close enough. Even though they barely, I'm not sure they touch the oval that I would count those.
Right, certainly for this one, I feel like it's so in the middle and off to the side that it's not clear whether they would vote for the candidate or they were trying to do the write-in bubble. And this mark gets a little closer to the candidate name, but it's so,
So you prefer not to count the judicial races as well?
I think
I
those
can-
are tougher.
That sounds good.
I would want to just add real quickly, even if someone filled in the write-in bubble, if there's no writing on the line, we will not count that as a write-in.
So even if it
So
was,
for that example, the write-in, there's no writing of a word on the line. So we
Right.
wouldn't consider that a
So-
write-in, even if it was in that bubble.
so that sort of, I think that would kind of go along. So even if it's just so hard to tell and it wouldn't be counted if it were a write-in anyway.
What am I hearing, undervote?
Yes. Or, well, for the,
And undervote for legislative district 32 state senator. And undervote for state Supreme Court position 5. District Court position 1, Shoreline, also an undervote.
Next item is B-0014. Okay, so for this one, it's all, we didn't mark red arrows, but it's all the write-ins on the front. So if there's a name variation of a printed candidate, and we feel like the vote is really for that printed candidate, we can apply the write-in as a vote for that candidate. So are these joke write-ins or legitimate name variations and therefore votes for the candidates?
yeah.
Yeah, so for the first one, it's Maddie Purry. But sometimes there are variations, so Jamila Leopold.
I think they're just switching the first letters of the first name and last name.
Yes. Or yes. Yes, they are all.
It's creative or something.
So what is the rule on the joke, right?
Well, there's no rule on jokes, but there is a rule on name variations. So if you wanted to look at name variations, it's on page 56 of the voter intent guide.
I thought you were suggesting there was a joke.
There should be, and we would probably give some feedback to that.
I feel like we've seen one of these name variations before too. The last time I was here, I remember there being.
We have several more ballots like this for you coming up.
And so this example for the name variations on these write-ins, it's for a candidate, a different candidate who's not on the slate.
Right.
Look at page 55. I think 55 is interesting. This is for write-ins already on the ballot.
Right, that's perfect.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's exactly what I was can I ask? So I think taking these two rules together, right? You can accept as a valid vote somebody who's already listed printed, and then, they write them in. And taking the next rule kind of in combination with that, they can be misspelled, and they can be, and that's an acceptable vote.
I agree.
Or what I'm hearing is that these write-in votes are for the candidates that are printed on the ballot.
Yes.
Okay. Want me to circle those, Geraldine?
You don't have to do, I just
Okay.
put 4 candidates.
Okay.
E-0015. There are 4 on the back to take a look at. More intentional misspellings of candidate names. Those are 3 here. This one up here.
What's interesting is this person did other write-ins that, aren't spoofs
Yeah.
of names. But applying the rules consistently, I would say the same applies to this one, that these are votes for the.
Variation.
Board has determined that these are variations of the printed candidate's name. So for West Electoral District Court, Judge Position 5 is for Kristen. Seattle Municipal, Kat, Andrea. And Faye. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, B-0016, we have 1 on the front. It's another different type of example. There's a candidate's last name with a different first name.
I would apply the same rule because the last name is indicated as the.
I agree.
Board has determined for Legislative District Number 34, State Senator, a vote for Joe Wynn.
B-0017. 1 item on the front and 1 item on the back. Again, with the name variations on the write-in, so this is the one on the front for a state senator. And 1 on the back for judge position number 1, Court of Appeals.
Same result as the last couple.
Agree.
The board has determined a vote for United States Senator Tiffany. Court of Appeals, Division 1, District 1, Ian.
B-0018. All the write-ins. So there's 1 write-in on the front. I'm sorry, there's 2 write-ins on the front. And then all write-ins on the back. Here's the first 2. Write-in. Over.
Yeah, I would agree. It's the same principle applies. So we're getting creative.
The board has determined that these are valid votes for the actual printed candidate. Would you like me to mark those or read those, Jeremy?
You don't need to. Thank you. B-0019, we've got a single item on the front. Same scenario with the write-in.
Same result.
The board has determined that it is a vote for State Supreme Court Justice Position 1, Mary.
B-0020. Same thing as we just saw, similar.
Just the one,
Correct.
same
Yeah.
result.
And even the same writing.
The board has determined for State Supreme Court Justice Position 1, a vote for Mary.
B-0021. We've got a single item on the front.
Same result.
Yes.
Court has determined for State Supreme Court Justice Position number 1, a vote for Mary.
We're at the last one. All right, so now we have B-0022. One item on the front and then a lot of them on the back. Similar situation to the last several ballots around write-ins. That. Back.
Same result.
Yes, I agree.
Board has determined that all the write-in votes are votes for valid printed candidates.
And that was the last ballot. I have no further items for the board. Here's the motion for signing.
Get a motion for having the team process the ballots as we've indicated, pretty please.
I would move that the team process the ballots as indicated.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Carolyn, we are due back here a week from today, next Wednesday, to look at more voter intent issues. Any further business for this meeting?
No,
Nothing for today, thank you.
Okay, great. No further business. This canvassing board meeting is officially adjourned at 2:30 p.m. on November 16th, 2022. Thanks all.
Thank you.
thank you.